My name is Herbert Marx, and I was born in Karlsruhe, Germany in May 1934. I do not have any siblings. At the time I was 6 years old. I saw a lot of German soldiers all over the place, and because I was Jewish, they put a Star of David on all of us. I had to put it on the front, on your chest, so that we were marked, so people knew that we were Jewish. You could sense that there was something going on, but I had no idea what. I didn't realize that being Jewish at the time was not the best thing to be. But all I remember is that they came in the house and they started yelling, and that my mother took me out, and then we were herded onto to the train station and put into a cattle cart. I remember that experience quite well, because it was very packed and everybody was crying. I was next to my mother. I remember her holding my hand, and the German soldiers were yelling orders. And of course, being only 6 years old, I had no idea what it was all about. I don't remember exactly how many hours the trip was, but I would say it was probably 5 or 6 hours. And they took us to a concentration camp in southern France called Gurs.
These are the locations of the largest concentration and prison camps maintained throughout Germany and occupied Europe.
When we got off the train, they put us in some old, it looked to me like old wooden barracks, and we slept on wooden beds, and I remember some straw on the bed. There were no mattresses.
When questioned, most of these men could not remember when they'd last eaten a decent meal. Many had been beaten and tortured so long their minds had failed.
The food that we got was not much, so there were other children in the camp besides me, and we used to go to the trash cans where the German soldiers stayed and took food from the trash cans and brought it to our parents. In my case, I just brought it to my mom. I remember, for example, having to work in the camp a little bit. As I recall, we had to unload trucks with bread. We would take French bread and bring it into the barracks. So I saw some of the German guards hit the other inmates of the camp with the rifles. I remember being put on a truck, in the back of a truck, and being taken out of the camp. I thought that I was just going for a ride. And I remember that they took the Star of David away from me as soon as they put me on the truck. But they stopped at a place which I remember the name was Chateau Larade, a castle. And that castle was an orphanage. And I was told that I would be staying over there. I was there about 4 years. And yes, I missed my mother, but nobody else had a mother over there. So I guess the nuns took the place of mom over there. I understood that the sisters in the castle arranged for me to be removed from the orphanage because they were afraid that the Germans would find out that I was Jewish. And if that was the case, I would have to go to a concentration camp again. So the French underground came into play, and they took me to Lyon, France. And from there, I remember hiking for a couple of days, and then we came into Switzerland. And around that time, from the news that we heard, it seemed like the Germans, Nazis were slowly being defeated, and that everybody seemed to look forward to the end of the war. And we were interrogated by the International Red Cross, and I mentioned that as far as I knew, I had an aunt and an uncle who had immigrated to New York before the war. And the Red Cross also informed me that my mother and other family members had been sent to Auschwitz and most likely had been put in a gas chamber. I was told one time that my parents had been executed.
20,000 are buried here. 15,000 who died in a lethal gas chamber were cremated and their ashes interred.
You always think back to your parents. I figured one of these days, after the war is over, we would be reunited, and apparently that did not happen. I was contacted by the Red Cross that they had contacted my aunt and uncle in New York, and that they were making arrangements to bring me to the United States. That was very exciting because the United States seemed to be paradise at that age. When I was about 11, 12 years old. Everything, all you saw about America was pictures of New York and the skyscrapers, and of course that all Americans were rich, paradise.